I don't know how it's going to go today. Maybe we get on better. We'll see. Ready for anything. That's the fight to make. Look at that, Dan. This is the fight to make. What a fight.
Simon got 908.
What? Getting old.
Our fight coverage continues this afternoon with DAZN, and we're doing that in the company of top boxing promoter Eddie Hearn, who has joined Simon and myself here in studio. Eddie, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. We're a bit close. So you've changed the studio around.
Yes.
We used to sort of lob it back to each other over there.
Yeah,
now,
you were there and he was over there,
Yeah.
but it's all changed now.
Well,
because peace has broken out between the two of you.
is this approaching the season of goodwill? No. Listen, you guys are doing a great job for boxing, and I've listened to, and at the moment, I agree with quite a lot that Simon's saying, which is a bit troubling. And I told him that earlier, and he went, "Oh, you've seen the error of your ways." I went, "Hang on a minute, mate. What about you've just started speaking sense?" But particularly stuff about Frank Smith, I love, because I just rib Frank Smith myself the whole time. So
Right.
yeah, at the moment, you've put us a little bit closer.
Well, I mean, at one stage, you used to call Eddie the snake oil salesman, and
I
Eddie
still
used
do.
to call you a disc jockey,
He did. Yeah, he did.
but no longer.
Probably.
Is Eddie your best pal
I'm
now?
probably more accurate in my assessments. No, listen. I mean, I started the argument because I called him a coward about the approach to the Conor Benn situation 2 or 3 years ago. He then played the man by talking about the colour of my hair and whether I had pierced ears and whether he met me in Marbella, and it went from there. Do I think Eddie's a bit of a tit sometimes? Yeah, I do. But I'm sure he thinks the same of me. But
I think the same of myself.
Do I admire his? Have I always admired his business? Have I always admired the achievements of it? You can't not do. You can't not do. Look at the scale of this business. Look at how that successful it is in boxing, in snooker, and in darts. Is that by chance, by luck?
Yeah, but for a while you wouldn't refer to him as Eddie as I do. It was Barry Hearn's son. That was a bit petty, wasn't it?
No, it's true, isn't it? He's Barry Hearn's son.
Yeah, but you wouldn't call him Eddie. This is Eddie.
Is that your recollect?
Actually, not.
There you go.
I mean,
well done,
but there was always, listen, there's always going to be look, you had a leg up. Of course, listen, my dad was a Hall of Fame promoter. I mean, I grew up in a nice house. I can't help it.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way.
But I'd like to think I've put a lot of graft in over the years, and we've done very well. But it doesn't really matter. As long as I can look in the mirror and say, life is good and we're happy, we're happy. But
Well, ironically, much of the original disagreement between you two centred around this fight when it was cancelled in 2022. And the protagonists and the fallout, 3 years on, Eddie, can you believe it? Could you have ever have envisaged that we're now heading into a rematch between Eubank Jr. and Conor?
yeah, not really. I mean, I think that was a treacherous couple of years. I've got to be honest with you. It wasn't overly pleasant. I actually look back on that period quite fondly in terms of what it taught me, a little bit of resilience that you build as well during that period. The first fight delivered, you know, even though I thought it was a pretty poor performance from Conor Benn, even by his own admission, and Tony Sims and the team, it delivered a night that fight fans left Tottenham Hotspur, or, you know, when they turned off DAZN and went, that was unbelievable. And for me, that makes me very proud. We lost, though, and I hate losing. So to do it again this Saturday is an absolute joy. Another packed night at Tottenham, but we need a better performance from Conor. We need a more composed performance. We need a man that's not fighting off pure emotion. We want a little bit of that, and he's a Ben. And we need to always fight off emotion. But he can be so much better. And I want to see him win. I really do. And I believe he'll do it on Saturday.
Is it an easier or harder fight to sell second time around?
I mean, sometimes you hear the narrative of, oh, why do we need to see that again? I flip it and say, well done. We just saw one of the best fights we've seen in British boxing history. I would like to see it again. The fact that we will have another 68,000 at Spurs tells you there is huge demand for the fight. When you talk about great fights for British boxing, outside of AJ and Fury, tell me a better one.
But Dave Allen sat in that seat moments ago, Eddie, and said,
why do up his contract? I heard that.
Why do we need to say it again? You, Simon, say it's rewarding mediocrity. I mean, there aren't many out there who are absolutely 100% having it.
And that's fine. And that's those that are and those that aren't. You know, my view on it is it's unfinished business because they didn't manage to rinse enough money first time around. There's an opportunity to double dip. But we've all got our opinions. My opinion is mine and it's relevant to me. It's not about being stuck in a corner. It's not being been against Eddie Hearn and his gang. It's my view of the fight. I'm a sort of an insider in the media with an outsider's attitude because I dislike what the media does at times, where it curates things and turns everything into nostalgia and turns people into mugs. And people buy sand when they think it's water. And I look at this and go, declining middleweight against pumped-up welterweights, trading on the family's names. If you put a Smith in against a Jones, no one will be buying this. The achievements of the two fighters in the ring don't merit the returns. But if people are prepared to pay it, then that's their gift. And if he can promote it, I'm amazed that he would say, in all seriousness, that he didn't see the opportunity for this fight to have the sort of scale, because that's why he wanted it in the first place. And always in his thinking would have been, well, if there's one fight gets happened, I'm damn sure there can be two. And ultimately, it's probably delivered precisely what he wanted. Engineering a fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank has no business being made from a welterweight against a middleweight that potentially is being argued should be fighting at super middleweights. It's there because of the theatre. And he's created that.
And you wouldn't
like
deny
it or
that,
love it.
Eddie.
I mean,
with the fathers,
the narrative and the storyline for a promoter is pure common sense to make this fight.
It's a dream,
honestly.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a dream.
The one thing I would say is you can build a narrative, you can create this moment and this fight, but if it doesn't deliver and if it doesn't give fight fans value for money, it's all a wash.
Yeah.
We cannot deny that everybody that watched that fight, apart from Simon Jordan, absolutely loved it. They did. They loved it. Everybody that left Spurs went, wow, what a night. And I bet you on Saturday night, everyone will go, wow, once again. It'll be full of drama.
Yeah.
It'll be full of heart.
Yeah, he's right. First time I was one of the...
See, here's a mischaracterisation, and he does this very well.
Thank you.
And what he does, he takes you off in different directions and deflects from what you've actually said. He did it in the two arguments we had last year about whether he had a contract that could have terminated a fight, or whether VARDA was a legitimate agency that could be utilised to uphold a failed drug test. Both of those he redirected from, and both of he was wrong. I didn't say the fight wasn't a good fight. I said that's the least you can expect. If these two boys and him have made this much noise about this fight, let's not reward what people should be doing. Let's not turn around and say how fantastic something is, because we live in a society where so rarely do we get actually what we should be getting. What those two boys put into that fight is undeniable. It was a barroom brawl.
And many
right?
fights don't live up to their billing.
And they should be called out for what they are. But when we start turning around and going, well, actually, we've got two legends that are their fathers, whose names are being traded off here, being built up into a fight, ultimately the two fighters that have not achieved anything in the ring of real significance to be able to merit this kind of return. If they don't give it all, then there's something wrong, and that's my view.
Simon, you can never underestimate what it takes to go through those horrible dark places.
Agreed.
We could never...
Agreed.
You can't just say,
Agreed.
your dad's famous, so you had to go to those trenches. Mate, what they did that night was...
And that's a fair comment.
Brutal. I mean, we have to give these two respect. I agree with what... Yeah,
I agree.
I think
I
what
agree.
you say...
I agree.
And Conor is a world-class fighter. That night, he didn't perform anywhere near what he can be. And hopefully this Saturday, you'll go, fair play, that was a hell of a performance. That's what we want. We want a great
I wasn't surprised by Conor being as game as he was. I thought everyone thought that Conor was going to get blown out by a bigger fighter.
No, but
I thought Conor
what
would
I'm
make the
saying
kind of
is,
impression
I know
he did.
that Conor's a world-class fighter. He can be much better. But what they both showed, and I'm not a Eubank fan, but I give him utmost respect, because there were times in that fight I looked at both of them and I thought there is only a milli% of the global population that could even think about going through what they're going through now. So it's not just, well, your dad was Chris Eubank, so it's your duty. No, what they done was unbelievable.
I'm with you on that, Eddie. Of course, the fight is live on talkSPORT on Saturday night. It's live on DAZN. You can watch it live on DAZN. The fathers, as we have described, were a very big part to the build-up of the last one. And it's the same case this time around, because both the dads were in this very studio earlier on the week. We'll look at that next. We're coming up to 12:20 this Thursday lunchtime. Is Jim White, Simon Jordan and Eddie Hearn. We're live on talkSPORT, live on your TV as well. Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn 2, live this Saturday night from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium here in North London, live on talkSPORT. You can watch it live on DAZN. It hasn't gone unnoticed, boys, that you two have become the best of pals. There is Terry, a big boxing fan. Best of chums, loving this lunchtime loving, as Terry calls it.
Lunch, actually. We're going to go for a nice lunch after.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
That's nice, Eddie. It's nice to hear.
I think Simon should replace me at the press conference tonight. I'd like that.
That might wrong foot Chris Eubank Jr. The fathers, Eddie, are a huge dynamic to this. And as we saw, and I was there, the roof came off when Chris Eubank Sr. came out of that car. That was a moment and a half. But considering his previous criticism of believing promoters like yourself were trying to murder his son, were you surprised that he did attend it? And will he attend it again this weekend?
No, because he loves a pound note. And like, I'm not, I mean, the reality is everybody with half a brain knew what went on. But I'm glad he was there. And I think he should have been there. I'm sure he'll attend on Saturday. I'm not sure if he's attended any training camps or any family dinners, or I don't know. In the meantime, maybe he hasn't seen him since the fight. But he's doing the media rounds in a fight that he's absolutely disgusted with, apparently. And I hope...
Why?
Because he's not involved. But you have to remember what has happened here during this process. Chris Eubank Jr. did what I actually thought he would never do, which was turn around during his career and go, do you know what? I'm not actually that happy with the decisions that are being made and that my voice is being heard, and I'm going to start to control my own career now. And that was why the fallout happened. I think what he did was quite admirable, and I think the dad should have said, you know what, son? All right, I'll take it on the chin. You go and do your thing. I'm your dad, blah, blah, blah. Then that's where the disconnect happened.
I don't think there's any dispute in that. I think Chris Eubank Sr. will say exactly the same thing in his own way, but he'll say that was indeterminable ingratitude, and every opportunity that's been afforded his son has been afforded by him, and every piece of advice he's given him have got him to where he is. The press conference that he does now is because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The opportunities he's had in the ring to be able to achieve the returns he's got has been as a result of him.
Yeah.
And so you'll never shift Eubank Sr. off that, but he won't dispute that version of events. He'll say exactly that, that ultimately this kid should be doing what I tell him to do because I'm his old man.
And that's wrong as far as I'm concerned. Because a lot of the advice that he gave him, because everything's centred around him anyway. Don't forget, I worked with Chris Eubank Jr. I was at the press conferences that we had with him. It was the Chris Eubank Senior show. Oh, and guess what? My son's fighting. And Junior wanted to come out of those shadows, and I think he was right to do it.
Right.
And by the way, what he's done and the money that he's made and the moves that he's made have actually proved he was right to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because now, listen, Chris Eubank Senior would have made the Conor Benn fight in an absolute heartbeat. What, my son fighting at his championship weight against a guy 2 divisions below him for a record purse twice? I mean, that would actually be called great strategic management.
Yeah.
And Eubank Senior would have jumped all over it. He would have taken his 25% and he would have gone, what a night, thank you very much, etc. The reality is he's off the team and he's not happy about it.
Okay.
Right?
So
Earlier
this week, Eddie, you probably heard it. Nigel Benn was in the studio with Simon and myself. We had an hour with Nigel. We had half an hour with Chris Eubank Sr. And Nigel mentioned while he was in with us that Eubank Sr. had been paid to turn up to the first fight. He'd been paid to turn up. But Eubank Sr. was having none of that.
Paid? You can't buy me. I don't work that way.
But were you paid?
Well,
you were paid.
So hold on. So Simon has come in there and he's actually now he wants to press the point. I was not paid a penny, and I didn't take a penny. I was offered money. I would never take a money. You know why? Because integrity doesn't work that way. That's why I'm done, Gorgon. That's why I am trusted. That's why I am loved. Why? Because I am true.
Did he take a penny?
You didn't pay the next bit where he said he wasn't offered money, because he said that he was offered a lot of money. And then you asked him if he was offered money. He said, no, I wasn't offered money. So I wasn't sure which one it was.
Well, you must know.
Well, I don't know, because it would have been an arrangement between Turk El Sheikh and Chris Eubank Sr., him attending.
You said earlier he loves a pound note.
Oh, listen, I know that. And, Chris talks about integrity, and he's not that kind of guy. I mean, this is the same guy. My father and Chris Eubank Sr. went on the most unbelievable journey. Chris Eubank Sr. came into my dad's office on a bus. I think he was living virtually rough on the streets of Atlantic City. And he came in to meet my father, and they went on the most incredible journey together. They were inseparable. Both men actually said in interviews, I would take a bullet for this man. My dad made Chris Eubank a load of money. Eubank was a huge part of Matchroom's growth during that period as well. My dad was best man at his wedding. They were inseparable. I said this in the break. I wasn't actually going to say it, but I really couldn't care less, because I think I'm listening to that drivel. And I just think about the time when my dad had his 60th birthday party, and I wanted to bring everybody together that really meant something to him, all the special people in his life. So I made the call to Senior. And the first thing he said to me was, is there an appearance fee? And I actually could not believe what I heard. And I will never, ever forget him saying those words. And when I said no, he said, will you pay for my driver instead? And I did pay for the driver. And I gave him 300 quid outside the gates of Maskell's for his driver to drive him from Brighton. And I thought, I'll never forget that. I will never, ever forget. And I don't like the guy. And I told my dad all along, I don't like this guy. And my dad has always said to me, he's my man, Eubank. No, I won't have a bad word said about Eubank. Even when I told my dad, he asked for an appearance fee to come.
So you still don't like him?
I don't like him because I listen to those interviews and I think sometimes it borders along, of a sort of narcissistical delusion and then just pure lies. And actually, Simon called him out. Frotch and Groves did a great job with him this week of calling him out when he talks about, and what he's saying about me, I just can't believe his feeling of like, it's like this pure hatred. And we've never really got on. But like when he talks about it's breaking the rules, it's, this is awful, it's like, what are you talking about? No, it was only Simon who said, hang on, your son's fighting at his natural weight. Conor Benn's coming up 2 divisions. Yes, but it's hard for him to make the weight. Of course it's hard for him to make the weight. It's hard for 99.9%. But by the way, he's making the decision to fight at the weight. And better still, Jim, this is all, the whole thing is my fault, the fight. I didn't even make the fight. I haven't even got a contract with Chris Eubank Jr. The fight was made by Turki Al-Sheikh, who made an offer to Chris Eubank Jr., which he signed. He knew the full terms, and he went ahead with that. I mean, it's like no one said to him, you better take this fight. And by the way, he's reaping the rewards, and he goes into the fight on Saturday as another favourite.
How do you feel when you read the Times this week and Eubank Senior says the promoter, Eddie Hearn, is openly trying to damage my son, and the public watch this and still no one says anything? Because,
how can you, if you've got half a brain cell, it's the most bizarre comments you could actually even hear.
But you need them. But you need him in and around it, all the promotion of it.
It's good for numbers.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
Did we need him to make the fight? No. Should he be there? Absolutely. He has a son who is fighting in one of the biggest fights in British boxing history in front of 70,000 people against the guy who he had the greatest rivalry with. It's against his son. How can you not be there? And it took it to the death last time and someone's intervention to actually get him to be there. And I listen to what he's saying and I just think, most of it, complete waffle. He comes in, he does a 4-minute poem, and then you're so confused by the whole thing. But what I won't, when you're saying that I'm trying to damage his son, I didn't even make the offer to your son. I've just got Conor Benn. We received an offer from Turki Al-Sheikh. Our answer was, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, I must say, Eddie, Simon and I were baffled by the 4-minute poem when he joined us the other day. As entertaining as it was, there's also the small matter of Ambulance Gate. There's also the small matter of AJ against Jake Paul. Is that going to happen in December? We'll ask this man next. Stay with us. Eddie Hearn with us live on talkSPORT. So much pertaining to the build-up, of course, and so much of it pertains to Chris Eubank Jr. and Senior. One of the allegations, Eddie, and it's gone on and on and on, this so-called Ambulance Gate. The allegations made against you by Eubank Jr. and made very publicly against you, that his ambulance was blocked from leaving the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last time around, and it was a matter of life and death, and he holds you responsible. If you're watching live this lunchtime on your TV, you can see it. Eubank Jr. in that ambulance, you can see, with various people on their mobile phones in and around it. Were you alarmed when you first heard this allegation?
I couldn't believe it. We were sitting at the press conference and, firstly, obviously, safety of the fighters is paramount. I've worked around this sport. I've unfortunately seen people lose their lives in front of my eyes at my shows. I love the sport of boxing more than anything in the world, and I respect the fighters more than anything in the world, regardless of how I feel about an individual. The medical services and the safety on the night is all done under the strictest of protocol, and also run by the British Boxing Board of Control and the emergency services. I had no idea Chris Eubank was going to hospital until I think we were about to walk into the press conference of the fight. It was, I don't know what it was, 1 a.m, whatever it was. And then at the press conference last time, he did just the most incredible thing, which was accuse me of actually stopping the ambulance from leaving, which I took very, very personally. And even my the people that really, truly don't like me spoke out and said, one, that's just impossible. And two, that's untrue. So look, the legal stuff, and I'd like to, consider myself one of the least litigious of boxing promoters out there, but I feel like, and I'm probably sure even Simon would agree, you just can't say things like that when you're talking about the reputation of an individual and our business when we care so much for the sport.
So are you suing him?
Absolutely. And I'm not suing. I want an apology and I want a retraction of the comment. Now, some people listening to this, station right now say, CEO is going, no. If you care about something that deeply, if you're so passionate about something, if this business, if this reputation means everything to you, you're not going to allow people to say that. And what he said was outrageous. Everything is recorded from the British Boxing Board of Control and the emergency services. We know exactly what happened on the night. He didn't. They asked to take him to the ambulance apparently, and he said, "No, I'm fine. I want to walk there." Then moaned about how long the walk was. I mean, I heard Senior say he was touch and go in the ambulance. I mean, the reality is, I have no problem with Eubank saying it's very important that we get, the safety of the fighters and they get to the hospital as soon as possible. I couldn't agree more. What you cannot do is lie about the fact that somehow I stopped the ambulance from leaving the venue. It is ridiculous. I
take it, Simon, you would take a similar view.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, unless you can actually substantiate it rather than just fling it around because it's a narrative that you want to spin because you've done throwing eggs in the other fighter's face, you've done telling Eddie Hearn to shut up at a press conference, and you're done being able to wheel your father out as a reveal, then the next narrative is, what can I say next? I think the press conferences he's done by calling them all scumbags or whatever else, fun and interesting to hear. If I was in his shoes, would I sue him? I would sue him up hill and down dale. Not because I want the money, because whatever money I got out of the consequences of his utterings would be given to charity, but because I want to say this is my reputation you're playing about with here. And whether you don't like me or not, that's one thing. If you're going to turn around and say that I have deliberately put you in a way of harm by deliberately stopping you, then you're moving into a territory which is reputational damage, which is taking me into a space which is seeded in people's minds and will damage my business, my reputation, and my standards. I don't think so, my old son. You better stand that up.
Have you had a lot of grief following it?
Because unfortunately, you live in a world where people don't. I mean, some people aren't the most logical, and anyone of, I don't want to be condescending, but like most people know that just wouldn't happen ever. But unfortunately, some people go, "Is this true? I can't believe it, Eddie Hearn. How can you stop the ambulance from leaving?" I'm saying, are you actually serious? Do you know what I mean? I mean, forget it's my company, forget it's my reputation. Anyone that I didn't even know, they're in an ambulance to go to the hospital. I mean, it's just, I found it quite shocking. And unfortunately, what we said to his team was, listen, mate, you can call me what you want, right? You can don't like me, but what you can't, so you have to just say, overstep the mark on that one. Obviously, Eddie didn't stop the ambulance, but let's make sure we learn from anything that happened. I dress it up how you want, but unfortunately, his stubbornness, won't, and that's why you won't hear him say it again.
He'll step back from it in the same way he stepped back from calling Frank the things that he called Frank and said that Frank had lied and cheated his way through the industry. He stepped back from that pretty quick, didn't he?
Yeah, but he made an apology for that as well. But that's what I'm not after. This isn't about suing him for reputational defamation of millions of pounds. I'm not interested in that. What you said was wrong. So be the man and say, shouldn't have said it.
And then it would be over.
Yeah, but he won't say it. But also he won't double down. And if he wants to, say it again.
And what if he doesn't?
Well, then the legal proceedings will continue, and we'll get to a place where, a court of law will decide whether he should have said. I don't think there's any. No one is denying any legal substance that the position of the case, which is even more madness, because anyone giving him advice would just say, let's just nip this in the bud. Because, like I said, it's and it becomes a mountain out of a molehill, and it's something that's quite unusual for me to do. But I just want, people need to know, if you really care about something, if you really believe in something, this is my life.
Yeah.
This company.
Yeah.
You know, my dad hasn't worked for 40 years to build a reputation. But I have to say, and there'll be people that don't like us, he's pretty much flawless within sport. Very few people saying, and that kind of accusation, what you're saying is, I have deliberately put your life in danger. No way ever. And don't you ever say that. And you will pay the consequences for saying that.
I was standing close to you in the bowels of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at the end of it, Eddie. And I was looking at you, and you were just quite subdued that Conor hadn't won.
Of course.
And that was it. And that was the conversation. You weren't rushing off anywhere. You were around.
To speak to the
Conor was
speak to the bloke in the ambulance to tell him to just put the brakes on. I mean, it's just the most ridiculous.
Very normal to me. Here's the thing, though, Eddie. The issue of weight, rehydration, and safety again has come up in this one. If you were promoting Eubank Jr. and you were looking after his interests, would you agree to the terms as they are?
If the science and the doctors and the team told me it was safe to do so, and it wouldn't affect his performance, yes, absolutely. For the opportunity, for fighting a welterweight, for the money on the line, the team have to give you that advice. The science has to give you that advice. What a lot of people don't know is that Chris Eubank, if you listen to interviews from years in the past, he's always talked about, I put on about 6 or 7 pounds, 8 pounds the day after the fight, right? The rehydration clause he asked for early in the day, he overslept because he was, clearly tired, which is a good thing, by the way. If you needed to eat, you'd get there ASAP. He overslept, which is no problem at all. He turned up with all his clothes on and one of those moody big Louis Vuitton jackets and weighed in about half a pound or 3/4 pound under with all his clothes off. The rehydration clause was not tight in the slightest for him. What was really tight was his championship weight that he has made for the last 6 fights, right? Now, whether he had an illness, whether he didn't train properly, whether he just got it wrong, whatever. This time around, I think he's trained harder, and I think he will make the championship weight better this time on the scales, because I don't think he'll make the same mistake.
And even though you're in the opposing corner, if you like, the science says this time around everything is safe.
Well, yeah,
everything as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, my duty of care and responsibility of a fight that is being offered to me by Turk Al-Sheikh is to protect and respect my fighter, my client, my guy. I don't have to, at the same time, have to go into the ins and outs and speak to Chris Eubank Jr.'s doctor and perform strength and conditioning coaches and find out if this is actually possible. He has a team of people that he should rely on. And also, he's taken the opportunity to make his own decisions for his career. Do I want him to be 100% and safe? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's why you have a team. I can't make those decisions for Chris Eubank Jr.
No, but at the same time, you wouldn't want Conor to be in a position where he might do fairly destructive damage to Chris Eubank Jr. Because of something scientific that you might like to have known before they fought.
We understand, no, because I believe Chris Eubank Jr. has the people around him to do it in the best possible fashion. He has Bomac now, his trainer. He's Terence Crawford's trainer. He has great facilities and strength and conditioning and weight-making people around him. I think they know what they're doing. Will he be tight at the weight? Yeah.
So you're rolling responsibilities to Conor.
Yeah, but at the same time, there is the part of anybody who loves the sport to always want to make sure that everybody's safe. Last time, they did 12 hard rounds, and both fighters, by the way, you wouldn't know it because Conor didn't let everybody know because he didn't. They were in hospital together.
Yeah.
They were in the wards next to each other.
Nigel told us that the
Chris
other day.
Eubank Sr. was in Conor Benn's ward, talking to him, asking if okay. They were both in hospital after the fight.
Yeah.
Now, Conor Benn left an hour or so later. Chris was in there for 2 or 3 days or something.
And for the record, Nigel, I think Simon told us the other day that Eubank Jr. got to the hospital before Nigel and Conor.
Yeah, because we did the press conference, and when we went into the press conference, we actually told that Chris Eubank Jr. had a broken jaw. That's what we were told, and that he's going to hospital or gone to hospital.
Yeah.
We did our press conference. We went back to the changing rooms, and Conor started to look a bit worse for wear and tired. And I said to him, "How do you feel?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm all right. I feel a bit sick." I said, "Then let's get the doctor." The doctor came in and said, "Just for a precaution, let's take you to the hospital." And this was quite a bit after Chris Eubank, and then he went, and they were both in there together.
What a world it is, Eddie, that you live in, you work in. It really is. More from Eddie Hearn as we approach 1:45 this Thursday lunchtime. Eddie Hearn, of course, with Simon and myself this lunchtime here in studio. Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn live this Saturday night on talkSPORT. You can watch it live on DAZN. Eddie, in the remaining minutes we have with you this hour, sources telling Ring Magazine, Anthony Joshua, your man, and Jake Paul are finalising a deal for a December heavyweight fight in Florida. True or false?
I mean, the gun was jumped a little bit and fired early. There have been conversations. For us, we were flirting with the idea of having this little 8-round fight this year. Not with Jake Paul, by the way, because he was fighting Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, that's no.
But we were going to go on a other card somewhere. You wouldn't have really heard of the person we were going to fight, but AJ wanted to go through the motions, wrap the hands, and just gear up to what is really in the works with Turki Al-Sheikh, which is 2 fights in 2026, and that includes Tyson Fury. That's the plan for Turki Al-Sheikh. We received a phone call from Nikisa Baldirian, from MVP, who, by the way, we've spoke to a few months before talking to us about the fight, and he said, look, would you want to fight Jake Paul? And I said, listen, I don't want to just be a publicity muppet for you, you know, telling everybody that you offered the fight to Anthony Joshua. If you're serious, we can discuss the numbers. And if there's a chance for us to run out in December and, you know, take care of this bloke and get him out of the boxing world and make several tens of millions in the process, of course, we will consider it. And that's basically where we are at now.
And do the numbers stack up?
Of course. I mean, like, you know, it's difficult to have this conversation. I think sometimes you just need to be as honest as possible. Should Jake Paul be fighting Anthony Joshua? No. Is he mad to do it? Yeah. Is there tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars for Anthony Joshua to have an 8-round run out against Jake Paul? Yes.
And that's why you're doing it?
We're not doing it. We're considering it. And at the moment, there's work to be done. But could it happen? Yes, it could.
If your man Anthony Joshua fights Jake Paul, do you and Anthony stand to make more out of it than Anthony Joshua fighting Tyson Fury?
More out of it? You're talking financially?
Financially.
Well, I think the same kind of levels, to be honest with you. And that's why, in this situation, I'd rather just be completely honest and say, what do you want him to do? And forget the legacy chat for a minute, because you can't eat legacy. And I hate the chat as well of, oh, he's got a load of money. Why? This isn't. You're not talking about. I'll give you an example, and this is going to be as truthful as it gets. We were going to fight in end of November or December in an 8-round fight against a bloke you've never heard of, right? Decent sort of.
Who was it?
I'm not going through that, but it's a top 100 guy,
Right.
100 guy on BoxRec, right? And he would have made, there was no money involved. Call it $1 million, right? Or we can go out and we can do it against Mr. Paul for 50 times as much money. And by the way, in the process, we can stick one on this geezer. I don't particularly like either. And we can do it in front of the whole world. And then we can go forward to the real stuff in 2026, which is really important to us, which is fighting in February and then fighting Tyson Fury or trying to get a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. I can't be more honest than that. You can ask me whatever you want, and I will give you it truthful and raw and honest about the decision-making process.
Now, Eddie. Live in talkSPORT, can you tell us that Anthony Joshua's next 2 fights are likely to be against Jake Paul and then Tyson Fury?
No, because I don't know if we'll fight Jake Paul yet, but next year we will fight in February, and then we will fight Tyson Fury. If Turki Al-Sheikh delivers on his plans and strategies. We spoke with him in London this week. Everything that we do with Anthony Joshua will be in accordance with and under the guidance of Turki Al-Sheikh. He has given us amazing opportunities, and the game plan will be put together with him.
Even though Tyson Fury says he's staying retired.
It's Turki Al-Sheikh's responsibility to talk to Tyson Fury and try and make the deal. I can't tell you we're fighting Tyson Fury. What I can tell you is Turki Al-Sheikh has told us, I am going to make AJ v Tyson Fury. This is your deal. Do you accept? We have accepted. Is the fight made? No, because I don't know where he's at with Tyson Fury. All I know is he's yet to fail in delivering a fight.
Right. And this would be the first time that he'd fail if AJ ends up not fighting Tyson Fury.
If AJ doesn't fight Tyson Fury, Turki Al-Sheikh has failed to make the fight.
It would be on him, not you.
It will be on him, and I don't believe he will fail. I believe you will see AJ against Tyson Fury in 2026, and it will be the biggest fight we've ever seen in British boxing. But I can't speak on behalf of Mr. Fury. What he does is up to him. If he wants to stay retired, good luck to him. He deserves all the success.
Now, you believe we will see
I do.
AJ against Tyson Fury? You're saying live in talkSPORT this lunchtime. You believe we will see in 2026 Anthony Joshua fight Tyson Fury where?
Wherever Turki Al-Sheikh wants it to be. And I believe there's a very good chance you could see it in this country.
Equal purse for the two fighters.
We'll never know, Jim. And that's the beauty of what he does. If I was negotiating with Frank Warren, all right, we were negotiating with Tyson Fury, it's a disaster waiting to happen. I want this, he wants this, I want this. Just tell me the deal, we'll negotiate our side. Let Frank Warren, Spencer Brown, whoever it is, negotiate their side. That's why Ben Eubank happened. I couldn't have got a deal done with Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
You've seen the build-up. That's why this fight happened through Turki Al-Sheikh. Turki Al-Sheikh offered us the fight to fight Chris Eubank Jr. Yes, please, thank you very much. Turki Al-Sheikh is now offering us the fight against Tyson Fury. Yes, please. Thank you very much.
So he's offering you that fight.
We're in.
And if your man AJ doesn't fight Tyson Fury in 2026, Turki Al-Sheikh is responsible for not making it happen for the first time ever.
Cool, you're making me sweat here.
For the first time ever.
Yeah, look,
that's how Eddie's described it, Simon.
Oh, he's been very clever. He's framed a couple of conversations around Turki Al-Sheikh in terms of the consequences of the Ben Eubank fight on Turki Al-Sheikh and the consequences of not making the Fury Josh. But it is ultimately, if the money in the room, as these guys have acquiesced to, is Turki Al-Sheikh to make these sort of fights. You're not going to get Fury and Joshua in a ring unless you pay them 100 million quid. And you're not going to get them paid 100 million quid through the gate receipts of Wembley or through the framing of it. You've got to have someone else put a facility fee up.
Here's the thing, Eddie. In the remaining minute or so that we've got, you've lit up the switchboard here because you're telling us in 2026 you firmly believe that AJ will fight Tyson Fury. The fact of the matter is, when you look at the heavyweight division now, Mr. Hearn, Queensberry have got it sewn up.
When you say sewn up, I mean
Fabio Wardley.
Yeah, but hold on.
Moses Itoma.
Look.
You need Anthony Joshua to go in against Tyson.
I got the biggest guy in the world. I mean, I got the guy that could go and fight one of the biggest fights this year against Jake Paul, and I've got the guy that I know will beat Tyson Fury. That's all I need. But when you talk about got it sewn up, you've got to talk about the value that fighters are bringing to the company and to the stadium and to the broadcaster. And a lot of those fights, you can just have liquidity of fighters in rankings, but some of them don't really matter that much.
This might end your newfound friendship with Eddie. Who's got it sewn up? Eddie's lot or Frank's lot?
It depends what you mean by sewn up. I mean, the intangibles of whether Anthony Joshua will fight again, you know, he will know better, but there's all kinds of rumours about where Anthony Joshua is mentally, not physically, and who he's training with, whether he's at Usyk, what his state of mind is, who's around him, who's giving him the best advice, and all of that sort of stuff. That's an intangible. What is realistic is the biggest heavyweight prospect in the world is Moses Itoma. He's under Frank Warren. Daniel Dubois is the former heavyweight champion of the world under Frank Warren. Fabio Wardley has now put himself in a situation where he is mandatory to fight Alexander Usyk under Frank Warren, and we can go on and on with these heavyweights.
Yeah, sure.
It's an Achilles heel for him.
To recap on everything, and Eddie, thank you for the last hour. You've brought us a lot this hour. Anthony Joshua will fight Tyson Fury in 2026. If it doesn't happen, it's down to Turki Al-Sheikh for failing to make it.
I mean, you're going to get me banging trouble.
That's what you said.
But what I will tell you is this. Turki Al-Sheikh is attempting to make Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury. Therefore, if he can't make it happen, I'm going to say I won't blame him, but he has failed to make the fight that he wants to fight.
But you or Frank can't do it without Turki Al-Sheikh.
I think it's a lot more likely to happen with Turki Al-Sheikh.
Okay.
I think to get Tyson Fury back, you're going to have to get his attention. We want the fight. And just to comment on what Simon said, I think Anthony Joshua's defeat to Daniel Dubois took a lot out of him. Not necessarily physically, but he was gutted. And sometimes this is a fact of life rather than just in boxing. You don't realise the pain that someone's in just because they're out shaking hands with everyone and they're in camera. And we've seen this time and time again. I think it's an important message to give to people.
It's a fair point.
And he struggled with that defeat. He was extremely down because he puts his whole life and energy into trying to win and trying to be the best version of himself.
Okay.
And when you get beat, it's hard to swallow. He's back. He's motivated. and he wants to become world heavyweight champion. I will navigate.
Will he be there on
his career.
Saturday?
No, he's training. He's in training camp.
Okay.
So-
On Saturday. Oh, what is he training for? Who? Jake Paul?
Well, we'll find out soon.
Well, the question is, I know we got to go. Is the best preparation for Anthony Joshua to fight Jake Paul if he's really serious about becoming a 3-time world heavyweight champion? Because I would suggest that fighters that have taken lesser fights, like Tyson Fury, when he fought against Derek Chisora, when he fought against Ngannou, didn't prepare him for Usyk in the right way, and so the levels weren't there. But putting Anthony Joshua in against Jake Paul is not preparing him for the challenges of Fury and a world title challenge.
I agree.
There'll be a press conference later on this afternoon.
But it's a quick one in between the plan.
Got you.
Yeah.
Eubank Jr. and Ben will be at that press conference. Eubank Jr. no doubt will still be snubbing you, Eddie.
Probably.
You need Conor to win on Saturday, don't you?
Yeah. What I need and what I want is very different. I don't need. Conor needs to win.
Yeah.
What I want is to see a young man that I see work day in, day out, go in there and be victorious on Saturday night. What I want to see is the team of people that are around Conor Benn that we all care for and each other as a team. Talk about Tony Sims. I'm talking about, of course, Nigel Benn. I'm talking about Dan Lawrence in field. I'm talking about Pedro. I'm talking about all these guys you might not even know. This is a team of people that have worked tirelessly for victory on Saturday night. One thing I guarantee you, if you're listening live on talkSPORT or you're watching live on DAZN, you will get two guys that will refuse to be denied, that will go once again to the deepest of trenches for victory for them, their family and their legacy on Saturday night. And that is why we will get another instant classic that even Simon, I believe this time, will absolutely love.
There you go. Eddie Hearn, what can I say? Thank you so much for everything. And I'm delighted about you and Simon and your ongoing bromance, which is wonderful for everybody. It's 1 o'clock.
What'd you make of that then?
It was quite pleasant. I quite enjoyed it. I mean, it was also a good debate. It wasn't like Paul and Eddie Hearn loving. I don't think we're ever going to get that far.
No.
But I agree with a lot of what he says around this fight, and it was nice to share some similar views. I'm sure round 4 might take another turn, but for now, I'm going to see if he fancies a little bit of dinner tonight, and maybe Sunday lunch.
Where'd you fancy taking it?
I don't know. He looks like he might be a bit of a Scots man. You know what I mean? Something like that. Something traditional, classy, just like Mr. Jordan himself.